dance, I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Shachi. He plays kartals as his throat emits sweet melodious sounds, and the vibrant notes of the veena are softly played. He thus inspires the devotees to perform dramatic dancing that is infused with aspects of his own devotional service. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Shachi. He is accompanied by the Sankirtan movement, which is the religious practice for the age of Kali. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj come again. He is the extraordinarily brilliant ornament of the earth. His preaching mood is suitably adapted to the cycle of birth and death. His consciousness is fixed in meditation on his own form of Krishna. He is always accompanied by his transcendental abode. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Shachi. His eyes, the soles of his feet, and his clothing are reddish, like the color that heralds the rising sun. As he utters his own names, his voice falters. He awakens a sweet flavor to life throughout the universe. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi. Shri Sachi Sutastakam ki jai, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai.
जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya, text number 29. Shri Shuka Uvacha Brahma Shapapadeshena Kalena Moga Vanchitaha Samhritya Swakulam Spitham Tyakshan Dehamachintayat. Shri Shuka Uvacha Brahma Shapapadeshena Kalena Moga Vanchitaha Samhritya Swakulam Spitham Tyakshan Dehamachintayat. Shri Shuka Uvacha Brahma Shapapadeshena Kalena Moga Vanchitaha Samhritya Swakulam Spitham Tyakshan Dehamachintayat. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Yakshan Dehamachintayat. Mataji. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Word to word translation. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Brahma Shapa, cursing by the Brahmanas, Apadeshena, on the plea by such a show, Kalena, by the eternal time, Amogha, unfailing, Vanchita, one who so desires, Samhritya, closing, Swakulam, own family, Spitam, excessively numerous, Tyakshan, after giving up, Deham, the universal form, Achintayat, thought to himself. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Shukdev Goswami replied, My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows. Purport, we'll go through the first two paragraphs. In this verse, the word Tyakshan is very significant in relation to Lord Krishna's leaving his body. Since he is the eternal form of existence, knowledge and bliss, his body and his self are identical. Therefore, how is it possible that he would leave his body and then disappear from the vision of the world? There is a great controversy amongst the non-devotees or the Mayavadis about the mysterious disappearance of the Lord. And the doubts of those men with a poor fund of knowledge have been very elaborately cleared by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Krishna Sandarbha. According to Brahma Samhita, the Lord has many forms. It is stated therein that the Lord has innumerable forms, and when he appears within the vision of the living entities, as Lord Krishna actually appeared, all such forms amalgamate with him. Besides all these infallible forms, he has his universal form as manifested before Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here in this verse, the word Spitam is also used, which indicates that he left his gigantic universal form called the Virata Rupa, not his primeval eternal form, because there is hardly any possibility of his changing his form of Sachitananda. This simple understanding is at once realized by the devotees of the Lord, but those who are non-devotees who perform hardly any devotional service to the Lord either do not understand this simple fact or purposely raise a controversy to defeat the eternity of the transcendental body of the Lord. This is due to the defect called the cheating propensity of the imperfect living entities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuron Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are reading a very important topic. Third canto, fourth chapter. So Parikshit Maharaj asked a question in the previous shloka. At the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who are the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava remain alone? So in response to Parikshit Maharaj's question, Shukadeva Goswami is answering. Shukadeva Goswami is speaking, Brahma Shapa Apadeshena. Brahma Shapa refers to the curse of the Brahmanas. The Yadukumaras, they dressed Samba as a pregnant lady and they were trying to make fun of the sages. They asked the sages that, can you please tell us that what this lady is going to give birth to, a male child or a female child? So they were trying to act duplicitously in front of the sages. The sages could understand this is actually a male dressed as a pregnant lady, and they cursed that this lady will give birth to a piece of iron which will be the cause of the destruction of the entire dynasty. So this is that Brahma Shapa which is being referred to. But here, Brahma Shapa Apadeshena means on the plea of the Brahma Shapa, on the pretext of the Brahma Shapa. Because it's not that Krishna can be cursed by somebody or Krishna's dynasty. Krishna and his devotees in the Yadu dynasty, they are all eternal. But Krishna, he wanted to disappear from this world. He wanted to take his Yadu dynasty back to the spiritual world. He wanted to create a situation, a suitable situation for the beginning of Kali Yuga. So therefore, he decided to perform his disappearance pastimes in order to bewilder the people of Kali Yuga, so that will create a suitable situation for the beginning of Kali Yuga. Therefore, the whole disappearance pastime was orchestrated in a way where the Yadus, they fought with each other and they killed each other in a fratricidal war. So, Brahma Shapa Apadeshena, the pretext of the curse of the Brahmanas, Kalena Amoga Vanchitaha. Amoga Vanchitaha, that means the Lord whose desires will never become untrue. Krishna has a Satya Sankalpa Shakti. Krishna's, whatever he desires, it will definitely come true. And the time factor is under the control of Krishna. Even the time factor cannot undo what Krishna desires. In our case, the time factor, the living entity desires, makes plans, many different plans, but the time factor, it actually destroys those plans. Pramatta muchair iti kritya chintaya pravriddha lobham vishayeshu lalasam Tvam apramatta sahasabi padyase kshulleli hanohur ivaku mantakaha. The living entities are, because of their great greed for sense gratification, they are very busy making many different plans. But suddenly the time factor comes and destroys those plans. Just like a rat may make a great effort to make a house for itself, but suddenly the snake comes and then it eats that rat and then it starts living in the same house where the rat has made. So our plans are controlled by the time factor. But kalena amoga vanchitaha. But Krishna's plans cannot be controlled by the time factor. That's why the Acharyas say that Krishna, whose plans cannot be destroyed even by the time factor, that Krishna, on the pretext of the curse of the Brahmanas, he decided to Swakulam Samhritya. Swakulam refers to his Yadukula. And Spitam is a Visheshana, adjective to describe the Yadukula. Spitam means a highly prosperous. Yadukula was huge in number. Just for Ugrasena, there were some, I think, 10 trillion assistants, bodyguards were there. That's how the Bhagavatam describes. There were lakhs of teachers for teaching the Yadukumaras. So when you see the description of the Yadukula described in the 10th canto, 90th chapter, we can get the feel of this word. Spitam Swakulam. A highly prosperous Yadukula, which are excessively numerous. Prabhupada has translated like that. Samhritya, unmanifesting or closing his Yadukula. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. And Tyakshan Deham. Tyakshan Deham literally means giving up his body. Tyaga means giving up. So this verse, this Tyakshan Deham, can be taken, it gives room for people to interpret that Krishna gave up his body. It's like a living entity giving up his body. Therefore, the Acharyas, they give very detailed purports to explain this word. So, Tyakshan Deham, Krishna decided to disappear or unmanifest his pastimes. He wanted to make himself invisible. He wanted to disappear from this world. And he thought as follows. So we see that there are three kinds of moral corruption. The Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, describes that Visrijya Dauratmyam Ananya Sauhrda Hridopa Guhyartha Padam Pade Pade. Visrijya Dauratmyam. Dauratmya means moral corruption or wrong understanding. Visrijya, one has to give up the moral corruption. So, three kinds of wrong understanding, moral corruption. So, one is that the living entity is spiritual by nature. Living entity is spiritual by nature, but when a person takes the pure Atma to be made of body and mind, when a person identifies the Atma to be body and mind, then this understanding makes a person simply become absorbed in enjoying the matter, or what is called as materialism, materialistic way of life. Because of identifying the body and mind, one simply is absorbed in enjoying the body, enjoying the mind. One doesn't think about the life after death, papa, if I perform papa, I'll get punished in the next life. My destination will be bad in the next life. So this is one kind of moral corruption. The acharyas, time and again, they speak about this kind of moral corruption. It is something like, suppose a person has 500 rupees is there a person has. But another person is trying to convince what you have is only 50 paisa. So he is devaluing the 500 rupees to 50 paisa. This is the one kind of moral corruption. Or what we say that this is one kind of moral corruption. And another kind of moral corruption is that a person says that you are not yet the spirit soul, you are actually one with the Supreme. You are one with the Bhagavan. You are the ultimate. This is another kind of moral corruption called as Mayavad. So the first type of moral corruption reduces the pure Atma to inert matter, that is materialism. And the second type of moral corruption inflates the pure Atma to the totality, that is Mayavad. It is something like saying that you have 500 rupees, but somebody says that, no, what you have is not 500 rupees, it is actually 5,000 crore. So inflating the Atma to the totality. So this kind of theories is also floating in this world by different philosophers. Therefore, the acharyas, time and again, they address this point. And the third kind of moral corruption is that, again, it's like somebody actually has 5,000 crore. And another person is saying that actually what you have is not 5,000 crore, it is only it has a value of only 500 rupees. That means, what it means, like the Supreme Lord, whose body is eternal, Sachitananda Vigraha. But to say that Bhagavan also gives up his body, he is also subject to karma. Because he caused the destruction of the Kuru dynasty, therefore he got his karma back, his own dynasty also got destroyed. And he also, when he was shot by the hunter Jara, he left behind a body. So, Tyakshan Deha means he gave up his body. So, this is a third kind of moral corruption where you devalue the Supreme Lord's eternal Sachitananda Vigraha body. You bring down that value of the Supreme Lord's body to the level of a living entity who actually leaves behind the body and takes up another body. So these are the three kinds of moral corruption. So, Visrijya Dauratmyam. So the acharyas, they repeatedly address all these three kinds of moral corruption. So in this particular purport, Tyakshan Deham, it gives a room for the third kind of moral corruption. It gives a room for interpreting, giving the idea that Krishna also left behind a body. So the acharyas, they explain the meaning of the shloka appropriately. We will go through that. So there are 4 categories of entities. 4 categories of entities. The first is that an entity which has a beginning and which has an end. that which has a beginning and that which has an end. For example, there are different objects in this world. Like this Vyasa Peeth is there, or the table is there. It was made at a particular point in time. Say so many years back it was made. And some particular point in time it will get destroyed. Some crayon may come, or it can get broken, can get burnt. So these different objects in this world, they have a beginning and they have an end. This is one category of entity. And second is that which has no beginning but which has an end. That which has no beginning but which has an end. What is the example? The avidya of the living entity. Anadya vidya yuktasya purushasyatma vedanam svatona sambhavadanya tattvagyo jnanado bhavet. So Krishna says in Uddhava Gita, the avidya is the ignorance of the living entity is anadi, has no beginning. It has no beginning. But the avidya of the living entity can come to an end. When a person gets the real knowledge from a bona fide guru, from a devotee of the Lord. So this is the second type of entity, that which has no beginning but which has an end. I mean, the conditioned life is beginningless, because the avidya, anadi means, it's a very simple meaning. Adi means beginning, anadi means beginningless. So the conditioned life has no beginning. Therefore, this verse actually directly refutes the idea that Jiva has fallen from the spiritual world. That's another point. But so conditioned life has no beginning, avidya has no beginning, but it has an end when a person takes to bhakti. And the third kind of entity is that which has a beginning but which has no end. That which has a beginning but which has no end. What is that? The liberated life. When a person starts practicing bhakti, his liberated life begins. Because bhakti is an activity on the liberated platform. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. So liberated life begins at a particular point in time when a person begins the practice of bhakti. And when a person matures, becomes mature in the practice of bhakti, he attains the spiritual world. And once a person attains the spiritual world, there is no more fall down. Yadgatvana nivartante taddama paramam mama. Krishna says that one never falls from the spiritual world. So liberated life has a beginning but which has no end. This is the third kind of entity. And the fourth kind of entity is that which has no beginning and which has no end. No beginning and no end. What are the different examples? Atma. Atma has no beginning and no end. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipa nachaivana bhavishyama sarve vayamata param. So these verses, they say how the Atma has no beginning and no end. But the ignorance of the Atma has no beginning but it has an end. Atma has no beginning, Atma has no end. But when you talk about the ignorance of the Atma, Anadya Vidya, it has no beginning. It has no beginning, but it comes to an end when a person gets knowledge. And not only Atma has no beginning and no end, even the Prakriti, material nature also has no beginning and no end. The manifestation of material nature, it manifests and unmanifests, but material nature as such, it has no beginning and no end. Prabhupada writes in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita introduction, he says that there are 5 subjects spoken in the Bhagavad Gita. Atma, Jivatma, Ishvara, Prakriti, Kala, Karma. So out of that he says the four subjects, Jivatma, Ishvara, Prakriti and Kala, these 4 are Nitya, eternal. That means they have no beginning and no end. Kala also has no beginning and no end. But karma has no beginning, but it can come to an end. Because karma is because of avidya, and that avidya is anadya vidya yuktasya. It has no beginning, but it comes to an end when a person takes to bhakti. So, talking about the Nitya entities, the Ishvara, Bhagavan is also Nitya. Bhagavan is also Nitya. He has no beginning and no end. But this particular shloka, when it says Tyakshan Deham, so in the case of a living entity, the body is different from the Atma. So therefore, we leave behind the body, we take up another body. But in the case of Krishna, there is no difference between his body and the soul. So Tyakshan Deham, literally, it can mean that leaving behind the body. So it can mean that, Ishvara also comes under the category of the Jivatma. He had to leave behind the body because of his karma. So, like that, one may interpret. So therefore, the Acharyas, Prabhupada is saying that Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti have given elaborate commentaries to explain that how Krishna's body is eternal. And they give very detailed explanation. So we'll go through to some extent some of this explanation given by Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami first he says that when it is mentioned that Tyakshan Deham, Krishna left behind the body, it's referring to Krishna left behind the Virata Rupa, his universal form. So the universal form of the Lord is a material form. Universal form is a material form. For those people who cannot appreciate the transcendental form of the Lord, meditation on the universal form is given, so that they can gradually get purified and appreciate the transcendental form. So Tyakshan Deham, here it refers to the Krishna left behind the universal form. And he left behind a universal form. It can also mean that because universal form, basically the whole universe is that nothing but the body of Krishna. That is the universal form. And in the whole Brahmanda, different planetary systems are there, and different planetary systems are described as the different limbs of the universal form. So Krishna left behind the universal form means Krishna left behind the earth so that the devatas can take care of the earth. They can manage the earth. It means that. And then, so Jiva Goswami is very elaborately explained that that Sri Krishna's form is eternal. That has been explained in great detail by many statements. Krishna's form is Satchitananda Vigraha. Because, just like to say that Krishna left behind a body, that means it's a material body. Like so many living entities, so many devotees have given their life for serving Krishna. And if you say that Krishna's body is material, he left behind the body, it would be such kind of a shock for them, those who have given their life for serving Krishna. And there are numerous statements in the Shastra. So many statements are quoted by Jiva Goswami from different Shastra to show that Krishna's body is Sachitananda Vigraha. So he says that there are so many statements in the Shastra which recommend Aradhana, worship of Krishna's form. Tatra tavat Aradhana vakyenaiva sa siddhyati. So many statements are there for worship of Krishna's form. So, the purpose of worship is to bring about the immediate knowing or apprehension of the worshipable deity, or to actually realize how the ever available presence of Krishna, to directly realize Krishna's form. So for this to be possible, the worshipable entity must be eternally self-existent. If the Krishna's body is not eternal, then so many statements in the Shastra which recommend worship of Krishna's form, these statements would be nothing but, they will all be false statements. They are all actually cheating. It would mean that these statements in the Shastra are cheating us. But whereas the very definition of the Shastra is what? Shastra is something, is apaurusheya. A human has a cheating propensity, but statements of the Shastra are beyond the defects of the human being. So therefore, that if these, because there are so many statements in the Shastra which recommend worship of the Krishna's form, so therefore the form of Krishna has to be eternal. It has to be eternal. Otherwise, these statements would become meaningless. Or these statements, because these statements would become meaningless in the sense that they are recommending us to worship a form which is temporary. Or these statements, the Shastra would become deceptive. That cannot be possible, because Scripture being the self-revealed word of God, and the Scripture is the immediate insight of a sage like Vyasa, is free from the human tendency to deceive. So this is the first line of reasoning which Jiva Goswami is giving. And then second line of reasoning he is giving is that Aropascha parichinna gunarupa eva vastuni kalpyate nananta gunarupe. Aropa means what? Superimposition. Arop lagana. We also use this. Aropa means superimposition. So somebody may propose that the ultimate reality is only the formless Brahman. And the form of Krishna is superimposed onto that formless Brahman. So somebody may, by following this line of argument, somebody may say that Brahman alone, the formless Brahman alone is real and eternal. Whereas Krishna's form is empirical. It is temporary. And by superimposition, worship is facilitated. Because the living entity, he's only used to dealing with a form. So therefore, the Shastras recommend worship of a form. Although it is temporary, Shastras recommend a worship of a form so that ultimately he can merge with the impersonal Brahman. Like somebody, like for example, somebody is all the time used to marketing job. He's traveling all the time and giving a talk and meeting different people, marketing a particular product. Suppose he is told, oh, tomorrow onwards you have to just do desktop job. You have to just sit in the particular desktop, and then morning to night you cannot move from this place. All the time you have a job only dealing with the computer. So he will feel that so many years I was just doing a marketing job and moving, and that is my nature, and how can I do the desktop job? Like he may immediately protest. So similarly, one may say that, oh, because we are used to only dealing with the farm, but the ultimate reality is only formless. But the form of Bhagavan is temporary. But in order to, because the living entity is used to form, therefore the Shastras recommend worship of a form so that you can merge with the impersonal Brahman. Like that one may say. Therefore one may say that by superimposition worship is facilitated, which gradually leads the neophyte worshipper still attached to the form to immediate identity in Brahman. So Jiva Goswami refutes this proposition by saying that he says that superimposition, aropa, is conceived only on an object of limited attributes and form, but not on an object whose attributes and form are unlimited. Superimposition, it can be possible only between objects which have a similar quality. For example, if I say Lions Club, like for example, the different members of a Lions Club, they may address each other as a lion. Lion from or Goregaon has come, or Ramesh Lion has come. And then he is asking, how are you, Suresh Lion? So Lions Club members, they may address each other as a lion. So generally lion has a tail and lion has a claws, etc. But these members of the Lions Club, they don't have a claw and the tail. But then why do they call themselves as a lion? Because of a certain common quality with a lion. Lion has a quality of being brave. So if the Lions Club members, when they possess a common quality as a bravery, so then they may address each other as a lion. So when you see that, so here a lion and a human being, a lion is superimposed on a human being because of the common quality of bravery. So the superimposition, it is possible only between objects which have a form and a quality. Lion also has a limited form, lion has a quality, and human being has a form and a quality. So here the lion's quality of bravery is superimposed on a human being. So therefore the Lions Club members, they call each other as a lion. But in this case, if we say the form which is temporary and the Brahman which is formless and eternal, they cannot be superimposed because form is temporary. It is, if you say that you worship this form, temporary form, and then eventually you will attain that, you will merge into the eternal formless Brahman. So here superimposition cannot be possible because superimposition can be possible only between objects which have a limited form and quality. Therefore Jiva Goswami presents this point. Therefore there is no such similarity between the formless Brahman and the Krishna's form. And then next line of reasoning he gives is that he quotes Sridhar Swami's commentary on a verse in the 11th canto, 31 chapter, 6th shloka, where it is explained that Dharana Dhyana Mangalam, Krishna's form is the object of Dharana and Dhyana. Krishna's form is the auspicious object of Dharana and Dhyana. So if it were accepted that Krishna's body was burnt, it was destroyed by Jara, then how can this statement become valid? Because this statement says that Krishna's form is the auspicious object of dharana and dhyana. So therefore this statement, there will be contradiction with this statement. We cannot say dharana dhyana mangalam. Because a form which is destroyed cannot be the object of meditation and dharana. And then Jiva Goswami says that, moreover, it is evidence that even at the present moment, that the direct witnessing of Sri Krishna in that very identical form and the resultant benefit of such seeing are experienced by his worshippers. Even at the present moment, there are people who are able to realize the Krishna's form. Prabhupada is actually writing, almost all, many of the points are, most of the points are written by Prabhupada in the purport. Prabhupada writes elsewhere, and I think another purport in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto only, I think 2nd chapter. He says, even now there are devotees in Vrindavan who are waiting to see Krishna's form, who are actually perceiving Krishna's pastimes. Even now, after the disappearance of Krishna, after 5,000 years after his disappearance. So like that, Jiva Goswami gives us this line of reasoning. And then, so therefore, Krishna's form is certainly not a temporary object of meditation. Because there is no such prescription that after meditating on him and attaining the required fixity of mind, one should then meditate on something else. There is no prescription that, okay, you meditate on Krishna's form, and then once you become purified, then you give up this, and then once you progress, then you meditate on the impersonal Brahman. There is no prescription like that. Rather, Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgranta Api Urukrame Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim Mittam Bhuta Gunohari. Even those who are situated in the Brahman realization, even they got attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and they take to Ahaituki Bhakti, unmotivated devotional service. And Shukdev Goswami says that I myself am the proof that the pastimes of Krishna are sweeter than the Brahman realization. I am the proof of that. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Itantascha Dridavratah Nitya Yukta Upasate. Mahatmanastu Mampar. No. Nitya Yukta Upasate. Nitya Yukta Upasate means the devotees are eternally united with me. Such devotees worship me being eternally united with me. So that is how the scriptures describe. And moreover, and then Jiva Goswami gives the next line of reasoning. He quotes the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. In the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Jambu Dvipa is divided into 9 tracts of land. Ilavrita Varsha, Hari Varsha, Kimpurusha Varsha, Uttara Kuru Varsha, Bharata Varsha, Hari Varsha, different. In each of these tracts of land, different forms of the Lord are being worshipped by the residents of those particular tracts of land. So there it is explained that Bhagavan Narayano Mahapurusha Purushanam Tad Anugrahaya Atma Tattva Vyuhena Atmana Adya Api Sannidiyate. Adya Api. That is an important word. So the meaning is that in order to bless humanity, Bhagavan Narayana, the Supreme Person, to this very day, Adya Api, remains personally present. This is also highlighted. Atmana means personally present. in his own various manifestations in all the 9 varshas. In all the 9 varshas, Bhagavan to his various forms is personally present even now, adya api. So then, if he is personally present, this verse is talking about the different avatara forms of Krishna. Even the avatara forms of Krishna are even personally present even now. Then what to speak of the avatari, the source of all the avataras? And Jiva Goswami says that because of the eternality of the Krishna's form, it is appropriate that in Shaligram Shila there are diverse manifestations, such as Narasimha and so on. This diversity is possible because of the immediate presence of these avatars in the respective Shaligram Shilas. So even like there are different types of Shaligram Shila, Narasimha Shaligram Shila, Vamana Shaligram Shilas, so many different types of Shaligram Shila. So this diversity of Shaligram Shilas are possible because Krishna is present, because of the immediate presence of Krishna, immediate presence of these avatars of Krishna in these Shaligram Shilas. So therefore, that such designations are possible only if the corresponding forms of Bhagavan are existing at present. And then Jiva Goswami gives 2 types of references to demonstrate eternality of Krishna's form. To demonstrate the eternality of Krishna's form. So 2 types of reasoning, 2 types of references. One is called as Sadhya Nirdesha and second is called as Siddha Nirdesha. So Sadhya Nirdesha means that direct witnessing of Bhagavan resulting from the devotion of a worshipper. There are many devotees who performed because of their life of devotion, they directly realized Krishna. That is called as Sadhya Nirdesha. For example, that for that he quotes various statements from the Shastra. Being pleased at heart by his prayers, Bhagavan Krishna, surrounded by the gopis, revealed his divine form, which had a blackish hue like the tamala tree and was bedecked with a peacock feather on his head. So here that being pleased with the devotion of a devotee, Krishna revealed his form. This is called a Sadhya Nirdesha. Such kind of statements come under the category of Sadhya Nirdesha. Or another statement, O greatly fortunate one, O best of those who know what is to be done, know me to be Krishna. I am present before you because of your devotion. Let your heart's desire be granted. So in this way, being pleased with the devotee's bhakti, Krishna reveals his form. Such statements, he gives numerous statements. I am not quoting every statement. There is Sadhya Nirdesha. And then there is Siddha Nirdesha. Siddha Nirdesha references are, there are many injunctions in the Shastra that you chant this mantra, you will get darshan of this form of Krishna. This also includes mantras intended for the worship of the Bhagavan's surrounding circle of associates. You chant this mantra, you will get darshan of this form of Krishna. Or you chant, or when you are performing a puja, not only the Krishna's mantra to worship, which contain the holy names of Krishna are recommended, but even the worship of the different associates of Krishna. For example, in the Shaligram worship, we at the end we worship the flute of Krishna. We worship the Kaustuba Mani of Krishna. We worship the mala of Krishna. So even there are statements which recommend worship of the different paraphernalia of Krishna. And then there are statements like when you are performing a certain ritual, you may make some mistake. So in order to rectify the mistake, there are prayashchitta rules are given. So in those prayashchitta rules, many times there are statements which talk about the worship of Krishna. You perform this worship to Krishna for this particular remedy, which will act as a remedy for this particular mistake. So like such kind of statements are Siddha Nirdesha. So Jiva Goswami quotes so many statements, Sadhya Nirdesha and Siddha Nirdesha. So we see, when we see these purports, that we can appreciate the statement of Srinivasa Acharya, where he says that Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipunau Saddharma Samstapakau. After going through so many scriptures, based on the scriptural pramana, they establish their Siddhanta. They going to the scriptural pramana, they quote the pramana. They give so many references of Sadhya Nirdesha and Siddha Nirdesha. And then he says that since even Krishna's personal paraphernalia being manifested exclusively by his chit potency are eternally existent. Not only Krishna's form, even Krishna's paraphernalia are eternal. They are neither created nor destroyed. They simply appear and disappear. So the origination and destruction of his personal paraphernalia are altogether denied. The creation and destruction of even his paraphernalia are altogether denied. Then such being the case, how much more must this be so for the avatars of Bhagavan? And how much more still for Swayam Bhagavan himself? If his paraphernalia itself, they are also eternal, then how much more it is valid for the avatars of Bhagavan? And how much more it is true for the avatari, the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna? So, and then Jiva Goswami quotes even Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya in his comment on the Bhagavatam 1.3.1, Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadibihi. Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam, that means the Lord accepted the form of Purusha. It's not that he created the form of Purusha. Jagrihe, he accepted the form of Purusha. He accepted the form of Mahavishnu for the sake of the creation pastimes. And in the Madhva Bhashya, he has quoted a Shruti statement from Chatur Vega Shikamani. And that Shruti statements also very clearly mentioned how Krishna's form is eternal. So like that, there are so many statements, and then he quotes another references from Bhagavatam. So like that, there are so many statements are there. So therefore, after so many pramanas, still if a person entertains the opposite possibility, what is the opposite possibility? Thinking the 5,000 crore to be 500 rupees. A simplistic example. That means like opposite possibility is to think the eternal form of Krishna to be like the body of a living entity, temporary. Still, if a person entertains the opposite possibility, then it is only because of the beginningless avidya. It is only because of beginningless avidya a person thinks like that. So therefore, to enlighten even those of such misguided intelligence, while proclaiming Krishna as his worshipable object, Shukadeva Goswami has mentioned, Shriyapatir Yajñapatir Prajapatir Dhyam Patir Lokapatir Dharapatihi Patir Gatish Chandaka Vrishni Satvatam Prasidatam me Bhagavan Satam Patihi. May Bhagavan, who is the husband of Shri, the master of sacrifice, the Lord of all created beings, the ruler of all the intellects, the overseer of the universes, the sustainer of the earth, the protector and refuge of the Andakas, Vrishnis and Sattvatas, may he please be gracious towards me. In this way, Jiva Goswami has given an elaborate commentary. I have just explained just briefly. I will just mention one point from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary, because Prabhupada has specifically mentioned both these acharyas have given elaborate commentary, but because of short of space, we are not including all the points like that he says. But Prabhupada has given succinctly has included those points. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says that this Tyakshan Dekam, it apparently means that Krishna left behind the body. But there are so many statements I already quoted which prove that Krishna's body is Sachitananda, which is eternal. So then you have to interpret this verse Tyakshan Dekam while keeping in mind so many statements which talk about the eternality of Krishna's form. Because the interpretation of the Shastra is a great science. There is a Mimamsa Shastra which actually talk about how to interpret the Vedic statements. You have to you have to understand the meaning of the statement by seeing the previous statement and the later statement, by also seeing the other statements in the Shastra. You cannot see only some statement in isolation and come up with a meaning according to your imagination. So there are so many statements you talk about the Sachidananda Vigraha. Therefore, this statement in this verse, Tyakshan Deham, here the Deha refers to the universal form of the Lord. Krishna left behind the universal form. That means Krishna left behind the earth so that it can be managed by the Devatas. This is one meaning. Or another meaning, Jiva Goswami quotes a rule from the Nyayavartika Tatparya. Nyayavartika Tatparya, this rule says that suppose in a particular statement which talks about a certain Vidhi and Nisheda. So in that statement there is a Visheshana and a Visheshya. Visheshana is the adjective and Visheshya is the that which is described by that adjective. So if a particular Vidhi and Nisheda, if that Vidhi and Nisheda, if it is contradicting, if it is contradicting the Visheshya, then you have to use that Vidhi and Nisheda for describing the Visheshana. For example, I will give a simple example. So, Ram punished Shurpanaka, like that statement is there. But here if you see, Ram punished Shurpanaka, punished is the Kriya, the sentence in the Kriya in the sentence. But it is contrary, because when you read the storyline of Ramayana, Ram did not punish Shurpanaka. Who punished Shurpanaka? It is Lakshman who punished Shurpanaka. But this statement is there in the Shastra, Ram punished Shurpanaka. Some places it is there. So, but then elsewhere in the Shastra it is said that Lakshman is the right hand of Ram. Lakshman is like the right hand of Ram. That means Lakshman is the Visheshana and Ram is the Visheshya. So therefore, you have to interpret this statement, Ram punished Shurpanaka. You have to interpret that the statement punished this Kriya, it should be interpreted in relation to the Visheshana. That means it should be interpreted for Lakshman. Lakshman punished Shurpanaka, who is the right hand of Ram. Or suppose there is a statement which says that Chaitra was the king. and he gave up his body and he burnt his body. After giving up his body, he burnt his body. So this statement appears contradictory. How can a person, after giving up his body, he can burn his body? It's a contradicting. So therefore, you have to interpret as referring the Kriya to the Visheshana. Who is the Visheshana? The wife. Because for a husband, the wife is the Ardhangini. The wife is the other half of the husband. The wife is the Visheshana of the man. So therefore, after giving up his body, he burnt the body. That means what? After his wife's body, after the wife died, he actually burnt the body of the wife. So that is how it has been interpreted. So therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti is quoting this particular rule, and he says that when it is mentioned that samhritya svakulam spitam tyakshan deham. Tyakshan deham, here we have to understand that Krishna left behind the universal form. That is, the universal form is the Visheshana. Because if we interpret the word tyakshan deham for the Visheshya, it would be contradicting so many statements in the Shastra which say that Krishna's form is Sachitananda. So therefore, according to this rule from the Nyaya Vartika, you have to interpret the statement for the Visheshana. And then another explanation Vishwanath Chakravarti gives is that when Krishna appeared in this world, so at that time, all the different forms, the different avatars of Krishna and the Narayana form of Krishna, they also merge into the body of Krishna. They also merge in the body of Krishna. And now, when Krishna is disappearing from this world, Krishna is sending back his Narayana form to the Vaikunta. Because in certain other versions of the Bhagavatam, instead of the word Spitam, the word Noonam is there. Jiva Goswami mentions, the Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions the commentary. Noonam. Noonam means, Nu means certainly, Unam means lesser. So, Nu, Unam, Tyaktam, Deham means Krishna separated his lesser Narayana form. Narayana form is the expansion of Krishna. So, Krishna separated his Narayana form and sent the Narayana form to Vaikunta. And then he disappeared from this world. So this is another meaning of the shloka. So, samhritya svakulam spitam tyaksham deham achintayat. Krishna made his Yadukula disappear, and Krishna separated his Narayana form, and sent it to the Vaikunta. Or Krishna left behind the universal form, left behind the universe for it to be taken care of by the Brahma. So in this way, this verse has to be understood. In this way, the Acharyas have given in great detail to explain this shloka to show that how Krishna's body is not material. So because otherwise so many statements, other statements of the Shastra would become invalid. Hare Krishna. So I'll end here. If there are any questions, I'll take it personally. I'm really sorry. I just wanted to cover these purports of the Acharyas who are meant to be on time. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.